Have you ever felt like you were invisible? Not because you were hidden, but because people looked right through you. Like you were made of glass, clear, functional, and completely ignored because someone else in the room was shattering? In psychology, there is a silent trauma that haunts millions of high-achieving, well-behaved adults. It's called the glass child syndrome. Most people assume that the perfect child, the one who gets the straight A's, never breaks the rules, and always has their life together, is the lucky one. But the truth is much darker. While your sibling was the problem child, the sick child, or the troubled one, you became the invisible one. You learned that your needs were a burden, your emotions were an inconvenience, and your only job was to stay quiet so the house wouldn't collapse. Today, we are shattering the glass. We are going to explore why your perfect childhood was actually a forge for deep-seated trauma, and why your hyper-independence today is actually a cry for the attention you never received. If you've spent your life being the strong one while feeling completely empty inside, this is for you. The term glass child doesn't mean you are fragile. It means your caregivers looked through you to focus on a sibling who required more immediate attention, whether due to a disability, a chronic illness, or behavioral issues. While the troubled sibling occupied 90% of the emotional oxygen in the room, you learned to breathe on the remaining 10%. You became an expert at emotional subtraction. You looked at your overwhelmed parents and subconsciously decided, they have enough on their plate. I cannot add to it. This wasn't a choice. It was a survival strategy. You became transparent to keep the peace. But the cost of being glass is that you never feel truly seen. You are a ghost in your own family tree. Because you couldn't get attention through need, you tried to get it through excellence. This is the birth of the hyperachiever. You became the perfect sibling to compensate for the chaos. You thought that if you were successful enough, quiet enough, and helpful enough, you might finally earn a moment of focused gaze. But the irony of being the perfect child is that perfection is boring to a stressed parent. Success is seen as maintenance-free. Your straight A's weren't celebrated, they were expected. Your stability wasn't praised. It was used as a baseline. You were the easy child, but in a dysfunctional family, easy is just another word for neglected. Glass children are often forced into the role of the third parent. You weren't just a sibling, you were a therapist for your mother, a mediator for your father, and a caretaker for your brother or sister. You sacrificed your childhood to stabilize a sinking ship. This leads to a psychological phenomenon called parentification. You grew up too fast because you had to. You learned to read the room before you learned to read yourself. You became an expert at anticipating the needs of others while your own needs became a foreign language you no longer knew how to speak. One of the most painful aspects of the glass child syndrome is the guilt. Because your siblings' struggles were real, a physical illness, a genuine mental health crisis, you felt you had no right to complain. You gaslit yourself before anyone else could. You told yourself, my sibling is suffering, so my sadness is invalid. My sibling is struggling to walk, so my need for a hug is selfish. This internal logic creates a high-resolution guilt that follows you into adulthood. You feel guilty for taking up space, guilty for having needs, and guilty for succeeding when others are failing. How does this show up in your life today? It manifests as hyper-independence. You find it physically painful to ask for help. You'd rather burn out than admit you can't handle it. You likely have a savior complex, attracting partners who are projects, people you can fix, because being a caretaker is the only way you know how to feel valuable. You are the person everyone leans on in a crisis, but when the crisis is over, you disappear. You don't know how to be the one who is held. You say, I'm fine as a reflex, even when your world is falling apart. You have spent your life being a window for others to see through. But a window doesn't have a soul. A human does. It is time to stop being transparent. It is time to realize that your perfection was a mask, and your hyper-independence is a wall. Being the easy child didn't make you better. It just made you lonelier. In the Japanese art of kintsugi, they take what is broken and fill the cracks with gold. You may feel like the cracks in your glass are failures, but they are actually the places where your true self is finally starting to show. You are allowed to be difficult. You are allowed to have needs. You are allowed to be a person, not just a pillar of support. The world doesn't need you to be invisible anymore. It needs you to be seen. If you were the child who had to be the adult, if you were the one who stayed quiet so others could scream, know that your silence was heard. But you don't have to carry the house on your shoulders anymore. You are not a tool for others to use. You are the architect of your own life. If this message felt like a mirror to your soul, you are part of a hidden tribe of cycle breakers. Join us at Psychology Secrets. Subscribe and hit the bell to continue your journey of self-sovereignty. Leave a comment below with the words, "I am seen," if you're ready to stop being invisible. We read every story, and in this community, you will never be transparent again. Stay sovereign, and I'll see you in the next video.